Hi, this is Zach Mayer with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Friday, the 17th of January. Starting off with the FTSE 100, where it looks as though the Labour government's economic strategy is working fantastically, especially if you look at the market of blue chips, which has gone to an intraday high. We've got the top of the channel there, which we've been quietly hinting at over recent days, 87, basically 20, the top of that channel there from the autumn of 2023. And we're looking for that while we're above recent resistance at 8400. I suppose you could make that up to 8420, given that that was the peak area back in August. But what would be interesting here is if we can get up to 8720, maybe by the end of next month. There were the signs of a turnaround, firstly with that false break of the December resistance line, then the multiple days bouncing off the rising 50 and 200-day lines, and now, as you can see, the 50 and 200-day lines very close to crossing. They're both rising, and golden cross tends to be the strongest part of the cycle, which at the moment it looks like it is. So quite a turnaround there. Final positive signal there was the bounce of RSI 50, or just below it, that we had earlier in the week, and that was a leading indicator on the upside, versus around 82.50, 82.80, a notional entry point there. Moving on to the DAX, which I presume won't be doing quite as well as the FTSE, but actually it is rising towards the top of that trend channel there. From the autumn of 2023, 21,000 was the number we were looking for by the end of this month. Looks as though we'll get that relatively easily. And then we can look for a higher target. At this stage, I suppose one could adjust that channel a little bit higher. So that would mean that 20,200 or 300 could be on the way by the end of this month. And that's valid while we hold above the latest gap there at 20,600 on an end-of-day close basis. But we already had the Bear Trap Island reversal for December going into January, and that's worked as a decent signal. Moving on to the Dow, which one presume will catch up with the European markets later in the session. Here we've got that rising trend channel. We've already had a bear trap rebound, bullish divergence. All we're missing now is an end-of-day close above the 50-day line, 43,500, to take us back to the best levels ever, near 45,000 here. Best case for next month, 46,500, which is the top of that rising trend channel from March last year. And you can also see that we pushed above RSI 50 to 52. So that is a help, along with the gap higher on Wednesday. Final point to note is that if there is any downside, not expecting it to be lower than 42,000, or ideally the floor of the latest gap, 42,500. Moving on to Bitcoin, and here we've got, well, it's done what we wanted it to do. I suppose twice in a way. We bounced off that uptrend line from back in November. In fact, bounced from below it, so it was a bear trap rebound. And then we've got the rising 50 and 200-day lines, and then we broke that December resistance line there, basically 100,000. The view now is that we're looking for a retest, obviously, of 108,000. The record level, best case after that would be a move to 120,000 by the end of next month, which is the upper parallel of that April resistance line projection, so that's back in play. This stage, hoping that any downside will now be limited to the 50-day line at 97,200. On to gold, and here you can see we've broken that line of resistance there from the end of October. That was around 2720. Above that, we're obviously looking for the best levels ever, near 2800, ideally up to 2940 as soon as the end of next month. Two RSI 50 rebounds so far this month, so that is also a positive, and probably one would expect more of an acceleration in this market if we can get the 50-day line rising early next week. Moving on to the stocks, and starting with Asiamet, which had a great December, but it's gone rather flat since then. Interesting that we're flat above a rising 50-day line, so we are expecting that to kick in and give us a retest of last month's resistance, 0.95, and maybe head up to where we wanted the market to go, or the stock to go last month, which is a penny, which I think would probably be justified given the way that both the 50 and 200-day lines are rising now, so we're heading into a golden cross, and the copper price has also improved. Extended RSI rebound at neutral 50, so that is actually very encouraging indeed, as it's an extended signal. And looking for the upside while we hold above that 50-day line, 0.72. Next up is Bluebird, and here The share's fallen back since the start of the summer, but it looks as though key reversal up on Wednesday and pushing ahead on that. End of day close above post-November resistance at 0.65. We could be looking at the top of that broadening triangle there from August at 1.1 pence as soon as the end of next month, but ideally we stay above that 0.6p zone. On to a stock which seems to be mentioned rather mysteriously on Twitter, or X as we now call it, and here potential of a rising trend channel base there at Ethernity Networks. Obviously a lot more work to be done, i.e. breaking the 50-day line there at 0.13. We haven't been above the 50-day line since basically back in August, and really want to see that broken before we can say we're on to 0.2 pence over the near term. It's been quite an interesting ride and turnaround at Immupharma, and I suppose if you're a holder there, you'd be mightily relieved that there has been a massive re-rate and turnaround. Typically, though, there was the pullback from the best levels that we had earlier this month, in fact, last week, and back to the old resistance area around 2.5 pence, but at least while we're above that, looking for a retest of the 4.5 to 4.75 pence area, hopefully as soon as the end of this month. In terms of what the ultimate upside here could be, that line of resistance there from early 23 heading as high as 5 pence. So maybe if we can stay above 2.5 pence, we could head to 5 pence plus. The other point to note is both 50 and 200-day lines are both rising, so we're in the run up to a golden cross, and that tends to be the strongest part of the cycle. Onto a stock which doesn't get any coverage anywhere, I think, but apart from here, and here we've got Falcon looking rather good indeed at the moment. Basically a V-shaped turnaround for the shares through the 50 and 200-day lines over the course of the last month or so. Our first target here was a rather ambitious sounding 7.3 pence, and above that we're now looking for 10 pence by the end of this month. Looks like there's a proper turnaround happening there, backed by the original bullish divergence going into the middle of December. On to Genflow, which I suppose comes up with the odd bit of grant funding every now and again. Here you can see multiple support points there above the RSI 50 level over the last few weeks. We've also got the 50 and 200-day lines rising steeply. That suggests that we're heading to 2.5 pence, hopefully well before the end of this month, and obviously then there's the retest prospect of last year's best levels at 3.2 pence. But I suppose the key here is that if the company has the funding, then really there's no reason for the shares to be near the low end of the range. Ideally, they stay above that 200-day line and 2 pence ahead of 2.6 pence. On to McBride, which had a decent announcement today and gapped through the 50-day line and the July resistance line projection there. Top of the rising trend channel there from August up to £1.35, and that's what we're looking for by the end of this month, while we remain above what we can get a decent end of day close above the 200-day moving average at £1.17. Moving on to Predator, which is also looking a little bit more perky at the moment. Maybe it's the oil price, etc. But here we've got sideways shuffle, as I call it, above a rising 50-day line. And the longer we stay above recent support there around 6.5 pence, the greater the chance of a move back, not only to the top of the range around 10 or 11 pence, but best case would be up to 13 pence by the end of next month. But those multiple support points for the RSI above neutral 50 could be a decent leading indicator signal on the upside. On to quantum blockchain, which is obviously celebrating today's news with the those 30% faster hash rates, etc. We had the first two targets blown away, the second one there at 1.1 pence, and the third target there up at 1.9 pence, which is a one-year resistance line projection. Best case here would be up to 2.7 pence by the end of this month, the upper parallel of all those other rising resistance line projections. Moving on to a stock which is not quite as buoyant as that, but maybe it will be soon, Rome Resources, where I think we're waiting on drilling news et al. And here, rising trend channel there. We've got the resistance line there, just breaking that one there from the end of October, so breaking around the 0.35 pence level. probably we can get through that 0.35, 0.36 area, then one could say it's safe for the shares to retest the best levels of the autumn through 0.45. But what is apparent here is that old resistance become new support, and that's also happened above a rising 200-day line. So hopefully the consolidation that we've had over the past couple of months is finally over. On to Sealand Capital, which has been one of my favourite situations of the recent past, largely because we were umming and ahhing about its prospects below 0.5 pence, and look where it is now. That was only the beginning of last month, seems like 100 years ago. The problem here actually is how to work out where the upside or any potential further upside will be. Rising trend channel there, heading for around the 14 pence level is a best case scenario target, but it's very difficult to work out exactly what the trajectory is here, even though in the recent past it's just been a one-way street in terms of the price action. But 14 pence possible while we're above the 9 3/4 pence area, basically the closing area of yesterday. Moving along to stock which looks as though it's attempting a breakout, Serica Energy, and here nice bull flag above at and above old resistance there around £1.50. The longer we stay above that, the greater the chance of a move to the top of that rising trend channel from June last year, heading towards as high as £1.90. Looking at that by the end of this month, and be interesting to see what might make that happen in terms of that upside. Couple of stocks from the Aquas market, just to be fair. And the first one is TAP, which I suppose should be back at the highs, given that the Bitcoin price is not far off the highs again. We've got a target here of 4 pence, hopefully by the end of next month, while we remain above the 50-day line there, around 2.3 pence. So hopefully that will bounce with the crypto bounce that we're seeing at the moment. Finishing off with Valereum, and here one of the star situations, charting situations that we've covered. I think we were looking at this from below 5 pence back in September, and obviously it's done rather well. Here we've hit this second target there was around 22 pence. We've now found that as support, and next level up to as high as 33 pence by the end of this month, which is the upper parallel of the previous targets. That's it for me today. More updates over the weekend.